Yeah, sorry for the confusion. What web page was that where you saw that information
It
about it?
was Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society. I was going to do a screen grab of it,
Huh.
but it was the one that Google took me to.
All right. Well,
And
thanks. I will look into that and
now
correct
it's
that
posting the
information.
proper time.
Yeah.
It just had Mondays, the fourth Monday of the month. And I had actually texted Steve to verify it. So,
Yeah. Well, we used to
but
meet on the fourth Monday.
it is all right with the world right now. So,
Good. Okay. Well, thanks for bringing that to my attention. I will
sure,
track
no
that
problem.
down and fix that because it'd be a shame if someone were to miss a meeting because of that old info. We used to meet on the fourth Monday.
So I thought maybe something got reset for the old times or something.
Yeah. So it's probably just a stale page or something. Anyway, thanks for letting me know and
Sure.
welcome. And welcome everybody. Let's get started. I'm expecting a few more people. I know that Steve Siegel will be here about 30 minutes later, so the YouTube streams have started, and let me put some links in the chat. Links everyone probably already has, but these are just links to our streams and our optional download files as well as our poll. Oh yeah, I see the poll link sort of gets mangled in the chat. That's aggravating. Anyway, we will deal with that at the end of the meeting. Try that again. Okay, that's a better link. If you're looking in the chat, I just put in that poll link, and you can participate in the poll after the meeting, during the meeting, or not at all. It's totally optional. Um, for those who download the files and who might have downloaded them earlier, like this morning or yesterday, I had overlooked one of the submissions, but it's been added to the file downloads. So if you happen to need to download it, the link is in the chat, and of course we will be streaming it, and I'll be sharing it on my screen. For those who missed it, we had a very successful workshop on Thursday. Peter Sinclair went kind of all night. It was like a 4 hour plus
And
Zoom
so,
workshop.
yeah, and so just to add to that, after the formal meeting ended, that's when some of the really most interesting stuff got revealed, because Anima was here and he was muted for the whole official part of the meeting, and then he unmuted himself and really. I mean, I don't think he revealed any confidential information, but he revealed a lot of stuff that many of us did not know. So,
Definitely worth watching. Um, yeah, he kind of maps out the immediate future of 3D conversion and auto stereo tech, and it really is fascinating. Worth watching the whole thing, of course. There's also a interesting discussion about lenticular production, and the link to that to the recording of that workshop is in the chat right now. And if you miss it there, it's also on our website on the homepage. So be sure to check it out. It's definitely worth your time.
and one other thing. So there's been some discussion going on. I'm not sure how many people are privy to the discussion, but basically the question is if you are entering a an official PSA recognized exhibition, which prohibits the use of AI generated images, there is, really a lot of discussion of exactly what the definition of AI is. For example, there's been a question about, suppose you do a 3D conversion. When is that legal and when is it not? So there are some people who would argue that if you start with a single photograph and use image displacement in Photoshop to turn that into a 3D conversion, that is neither artificial intelligence nor is it creating an image that doesn't already exist, that wasn't created photographically. And so then there was some further speculation on that if you use LeiaPix, well, then is it AI or not AI? If LeiaPix is simply taking a single image and displacing it to form two images, is that AI? And based
Definitely
on
AI.
the discussion that Nima was using to describe the algorithms using LeiaPix, my position is that is definitely an AI generated image, but there is at least one person who doesn't quite believe. I'm not going to give any names, but he's arguing, well, maybe not. It's really nothing more than just displacing the image. So anyway, for people who are interested in that topic, you might also be interested in what Nima had to say.
Yeah, thanks, Herb. This is really such an interesting time in stereo photography, in 3D imagery, in spatial imagery. And we are all kind of inadvertent experts in this, or I'm sure we all at least have strong opinions about what constitutes an actual stereo photo and what doesn't. But as Herb said, there's a lot of gray in there, and especially with Photoshop, you don't really always know if AI is touching your image or not. So,
Ironically, I believe the time needed to make a good image is the criteria. Because 20 years ago, when you had to move things sideways, fill in slivers and gaps, and took like 6-7 hours to do a 2D to 3D conversion, the energy and time and blah, blah in it, no one wants to see just pushing a single button to get anything. I think that's sort of where we have sort of dropped the AI thing. It's too easy to get a nice picture is my feeling on it.
Well, regardless of how much work it takes, if it's a creative decision, it's a creative decision. If it's adding a filter, it's adding a filter. That would be my position. It's not a creative decision if you just push the convert to 3D button.
Okay. In any case, just one more thing that's interesting, and basically the decision we've made with regard to the Cascade exhibition is we are simply going to quote the PSA required rules exactly as PSA provides them and not try and interpret them, nor are we going to question if somebody submits a photograph. It is not the business of the exhibition to say, was that a 3D conversion or not? And if it was did you use AI or did you do it completely manually? It is up to in our opinion, it's up to the contestant to conform to the PSA conditions of entry, and we don't want to be any more restrictive than what PSA requires.
Okay. I think that's a pretty solid position, and that is for the Cascade International Exhibition, right?
That is correct,
Right.
Which we are in the process of applying for, and we hope to conduct that in November. And there were changes required this year that required us to spend more time, specifically the question of what qualifications judges needed to have for a PSA exhibition. There were new requirements this year, and we had to basically determine whether the judges that we had were qualified. And we have now determined that we have judges who are qualified because basically the 3D division basically is waiving the requirements that apply to other divisions, and therefore we don't need any special qualifications, and that's why we've been delayed in the process of applying, but we're now moving forward.
Interesting. Yeah, that was always a challenge with the Oakland International. Speaking of conversions, of course, conversions are welcome at our meetings, Golden Gate Stereoscopic Society meetings. Of course, these are non-competitive slideshows, even though we do vote on them. And if you haven't already, when you upload your file for our slideshows, there is a button that specifies whether it's a native stereo shot, meaning it was taken with a camera, or a conversion, meaning it was either manually or automatically, AI or otherwise, run through some sort of a conversion app. Of course, that kind of confuses tonight's slideshow. Tonight is our special Google Earth topic, where we've made virtual cha-chas in Google Earth of landscapes, cityscapes, that sort of thing. Are these native? Are these conversions? I've labeled them native, but I would say these are really just more for fun. And these probably wouldn't go very far if introduced in any sort of an international exhibition.
Sorry.
Matt, can I
we're getting some background chatter. I think, Jack, do you have some background noise?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, but there's some background noise that's interrupting from your channel.
If
Yeah,
you can just mute.
Jack,
The
please
only
mute your
noise is
TV.
I'm listening to you guys talk on my.
Your microphone is not muted. That's the problem, I believe.
Oh, the microphone on my mute.
So, Jack, we're just
There you go. Yep. You done
all
it.
right. Thank you, Jack. All right.
Sorry.
With that, I say let's jump into our slideshow. But did anyone have anything they'd like to share or add before we start the show? Okay. Let me set up here and share my screen. If you're following along on one of our YouTube streams, that is running. There's going to be a lag of 10 or 20 seconds or so. Many of you are already familiar with that. All right, sharing my screen. Welcome, Jay. Saw you come in there. Okay, you should be able to see my screen right now. Naturally, our first image is by a member who isn't here right now. He's going to be joining us a little later, so we're going to go back when he arrives. In the meantime, Jay, I see you there. And this one is yours.
Yeah,
The
just
title
found an
is,
interesting place in
go
Japan where the building looks like a table. I think it's a bakery or a candy factory.
And the title is Table. There it is.
I basically did a search for buildings that look like something else, and disappointed that the giant picnic basket building and the giant chicken is not in Google Earth in 3D.
Some unusual texturing on the sides of this building. What city is this building in?
I don't know exact city. It's in Japan somewhere.
Japan somewhere. And you used Google Earth for this?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, there are a couple ways to use Google Earth, the browser, the desktop app. I think for some regions you can even use Google Maps.
Yeah, I think Google Earth has switched from desktop app to browser.
I think the desktop app has not been updated in a while. I was able to download it, but it looks pretty stale. All right, thank you, Jay. And hello, Melinda. Bob, we have one by you next. GG Bridge 1 Google Earth is the title. I think the
Just in
title says-
honor of the club.
Oh, yes.
I'm curious. These images, when I haven't used Google Earth before, and I always thought that there was an option to have an actual satellite photographic view. And these seem to be some kind of altered versions of what they've captured. I notice all the water tends to be kind of that same dark green color.
I think it's a combination of satellite photography and then also some areas where people have gone in with manual modeling. And it's definitely been refined over the years. The last time I took a view like this, the tiling of the water was much more
I lost the sound if someone was speaking there.
Tori, you're a little
Sorry?
soft. Maybe get a little closer to the mic.
Can I not be heard? Sorry.
You just popped out after you started.
Okay, I guess I have to be facing directly towards the laptop instead of looking at my TV when I talk. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
you're
fine.
a little quiet.
All right. What I was saying is, I believe, and I suppose I could ask a friend who actually works there, that Google Earth uses a combination of satellite photogrammetry and some bespoke CG modeling where people have gone in to refine landmarks and things. And as for the water, I think they've refined the way they do that, because I definitely remember previously seeing the water look very weird because it didn't have any reference points and it appeared to have different depths and shapes and things. And they seem to have gotten to work on that a bit here. This looks very nice.
I agree. Hey, folks. Yeah, it's people used Google SketchUp to make a lot of the structures, at least the ones that look good. The ones that look kind of funky were made from combinations of the satellite imagery, sort of stereographically reconstructing the buildings, and sometimes using the city planner maps and stuff to recreate the buildings. And then they would use photographs that people have all taken with their phones and stored on Google, and use those to create textures for the sides of the buildings that are supposedly accurate.
Matt was remarking on Jay's picture previously, the strange sides of the building, and I think that was a photogrammetry error. That was averaging from the sky level views of the buildings, the satellite photography. That was just sort of guessing at whatever was under that table form.
Right. Yeah, it makes a lot of mistakes.
I would imagine that more care is taken for famous landmarks like the Golden Gate Bridge as well.
Yeah, I think it depends on who wants to contribute the work to make it really nice.
Yeah, I'm sure something like this becomes somebody's project.
Right. It's a great image too, by the way. It's actually goes for all of them. That's kind of why I popped in. I was really impressed with what everybody did here. I mean, it's like way beyond what we did with Google Earth before.
Yeah, thanks, Melinda. Yeah, this one, at certainly a glance at it on my loom pad, it really looks photorealistic, like it was taken by a drone or something. Yeah, thanks, Bob.
The absence of traffic is a kind of a giveaway.
Welcome, Steve.
Hello.
Hey, there he is. Glad you could make it. Melinda, by the way, I want to make sure that you got one that I had overlooked. I just put it in the download files before the meeting. Image number 16 by Steve called Paris. I'll be streaming it, of course, and sharing it on my screen, but if you wanted to load it in your device and didn't have a chance, you can download it from the link.
Oh, okay, thanks. I'll go get it.
And Steve, now that you're here, I'm going to put you in the hot seat. We're going to go back to image number 1, which is by Steve. And the title is Palace of Fine Arts.
I don't imagine there's too much to say about these because everybody kind of did the same thing. I mean, not the same image, but the process. Although my Google Maps, even when I download the Pro version, it still leaves a bunch of icons down at the bottom, which I had to paint out. I don't know how to get around that.
There are settings for that. There's like a full screen or a high res. I think it's called high res or
I
something.
looked at every setting that there was.
Yeah, it had it. It was hard for me to find before, but I haven't looked in a long time.
All right, well, I'll look some more, but I don't even know where I would look for it because I looked at every possible place. But anyway, I mean, I got most of the stuff.
I don't remember where it is, but I remember it's very obscure, wherever that command is.
Well kept secret.
Oh, it seems to be a hunt.
This one's definitely in front of the window, very pronounced on my loom pad.
Yeah, same on YouTube. It's let's see, what I think, the Golden Gate Bridge is actually the point of the plane. Everything's in front of the window.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I should probably do these in Stereo Photo Maker. I do them in Affinity because when I do a screen capture, it's saved and then I have to do a paste. Yeah. Oh, good. You're in Stereo Photo Maker. So yeah, let's correct that.
There we go. I don't mean to be modifying your artwork.
Please feel free.
Let me do this on our live streams as well. I'm using the easy adjustment tool in Stereo Photo Maker. There we go. Just to kind of push everything behind the window, and I'm doing this very roughly, but
that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think that's an improvement.
All right, thanks. Great.
Okay. Yeah, hey, I'm getting better at these slideshow adjustments. That was kind of the whole point of this this setup. But
The YouTube version was adjusted for a second and then it bounced
yeah,
back.
and then it disappeared. Okay, well, I don't want you guys to have to watch me do this. I'll just make you watch me do it anyway. You are all my test subjects at this game, so that should pop into view any minute now. But thank you, Steve. I think it's a really nice composition too. You found a really nice angle. And,
Well, thanks.
of course, for a lot of us, this is a really well-known site as well.
My neighborhood.
That's right.
I did think about that when I was doing it.
And I
Yeah, the
know
camera is pretty close to over my apartment.
I don't think you're quite that close to the palace.
Not that close. So if you just back up about 2 blocks, it'd be right there.
Oh, nice neighborhood.
Oh, it's just beautiful, all directions. I'm very fortunate.
And you've shown us your own stereophotography of the Palace of Fine Arts, of course.
Oh, you've all seen everything in this neighborhood.
Yes.
But this is an angle I couldn't get to.
Yeah, and that's awesome. All right, thank you, Steve. I'm going to jump forward to number 4, which is by Oleg. And there it is on the screen. Tammans, Switzerland by Google Earth, if I'm pronouncing that right. Oleg, how close did I get?
Is he muted?
Oh, he might have dropped off.
Yeah, looks like it's
All right,
gone.
well, we will come back to Oleg. He was here. Maybe he's having technical difficulties. All right, moving on to number 5. Jack, you'll need to unmute yourself because we're going to want to hear about offshore SF Bay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay. This one, I wanted to get a 3D image of the underwater offshore as well as the land area and everything, and I wanted to get a good 3D. I didn't get as much stereo out of this as I wanted to. I did quite a bit of work on it, and it was very difficult to get the stereo, but I think I got some, and you can see in the middle to the left there is a San Francisco Bay, San Francisco, where we all live, and you can see how the underwater land stretches out to sea.
Yeah, it's a great subject for stereo.
Yeah, it's an image that most of us have never really imagined before.
I took an oceanography class a long time ago in Santa Cruz, which is right there in the right hand part of the image, and it's particularly interesting that crack right there that comes out of that bay to the right, that's Elkhorn Slough, and I forget the name of the trench, but that gets bigger and bigger as it goes out to sea, and it goes out beyond Hawaii.
Wow.
It becomes just an incredibly huge feature.
This is one where I'd kind of want the labels just to know what these features are called. I'm sure oceanographers know these maps. Yeah,
Is that the one they call the Marianas Trench?
No, that's in the Atlantic.
I think that's where Aquaman lives. I have that on good authority. Got the 3D movie right over here.
Actually, on Wikipedia, it says it's in the Pacific Ocean.
What?
It says the Marianas Trench is an oceanic trench located in the western Pacific Ocean, about 200 kilometers east of the Mariana Island.
Well, thanks for the correction. Oh, yeah. Look at that, just below Japan.
Anyway, everybody can see where they live in this picture.
Don't see my house.
Yeah, I can imagine where my house is. Definitely gives a sense of scale of how minuscule we really are. Well, thank you, Jack. And Oleg, welcome. I think I saw you hop back on.
Yeah, my laptop ran out of fuel.
Ah, figured it was something like that. Well, you're up next. We're going to go back to number 4. And this is Tammins, Switzerland by Google Earth. And just give it a few seconds to pop up on the stream. All right, Oleg, take it away.
Not much to say. I wanted to get some pictures of mountains and decided to go to Europe. And this is the prettiest one I could find.
Very nicely composed. Excellent depth.
Yeah, very comfortable considering how hyper it is. I feel like I want to compliment a lot of these on the nice natural light, but of course that has nothing to do with us. I don't know how Google is pulling that off, but there's some nice shading here.
I did fool around with the colors a lot, like I usually do.
Did you put in a new sky, or is that from Google Earth?
That was Google's. I didn't touch that.
Wow.
Is there a little red marker of some sort that Google Earth put in the middle there, and it looks like maybe text underneath it?
Yeah, I put that in. That's the name of the town.
Oh,
That-
I see. Okay.
That was in Google Earth. I removed a lot of other things, but I kept that one there.
I'll zoom in on that because I can.
It's like Taman or something like that.
Tammins. Yeah, I was going to ask if I was pronouncing that correctly, but
To me, the zoom looks better than the full shot.
I was just going to say that the 3D works really well at this composition, cropped like this. I think you can get a better, even more sense of the depth, although the wide shot worked pretty well.
Yeah, zooming in works pretty well on this. Now let's see if I can zoom out.
Good. I think it's better zoomed in.
You know, something that Melinda had suggested, I think it was you, Melinda, a while ago, taking a like a high resolution stereo image like this, and just sort of panning and zooming and exploring the area.
Yeah, I always encourage people to zoom well in. Often people pick they find a very nice subject, but they end up keeping sort of too much of it because they don't want to cut anything away. But if you just go ahead and try and Stereo Photo Maker, you can always undo. So it doesn't hurt anything to try zooming in and seeing what changes. And if you like what kind of the some of the things that you're seeing, then you can take your time and find another really nice composition.
Could even get 2 or 3 submissions out of one shot.
You can, yeah. Some are, from high-res images. Like I remember a lot of Matt's aerial photography has lots of nice images within it.
Yeah, I think, with a subject like this, where there's some distance from the subject, there's just so much detail that can be isolated. All right, well, thank you, Oleg. We've been jumping back and forth. We're going to jump forward again to number 6, and this is by Steve. And the title is Niagara Falls.
Okay, again, pretty self-explanatory. This is just one of the taller hotels on the Canadian side to give it a little bit more depth.
Who here has been to Niagara Falls? Which West Coast participants here have been to this location?
I've been there.
All right, Jack. That
I've been a couple of times. They've had NSA conventions in Buffalo. And
say 2 years ago.
I've been there a couple of thousand times.
Last time I was there was for a Rocket Belt convention, and got to try on the rocket belt that was in the James Bond movie.
A rocket belt convention.
Yes, and I took 3D video of the rocket belt flying twice.
So did you actually go up in the air?
No. There's actually, at the time, there's less people who went to the moon. I'm sorry, less people used the rocket belt than landed on the moon. That's since changed. But yeah, got to meet the guys who was in all the movies, and it's a really interesting time. Of course, Niagara Falls area is where it was developed. So
I took a boat trip there one time where we we're down at the bottom part, of course, and we came right up to the falls almost.
Wow.
The Maid of the Mist, that boat's called. This year, the total eclipse went right through Niagara Falls and Buffalo, and it was cloudy when the eclipse was on, so there was a huge amount of people there to see the falls and the total eclipse, and they got disappointed.
Watch Marilyn Monroe in Niagara.
Well, that's a good tip.
I think in the promotions they even said, it was like 2 natural wonders or something like that. They kind of identified there's 2 things to look at. in this movie.
Getting back to the photo, I think there's too much blue in it. There's a lot more color available.
There's a little bit of a retinal rivalry down on the bottom right near the bottom of the hotel there.
It looks like some titles have been masked out.
Ah.
This is also super forward of the window. I don't know if we want to try reconverging it.
Yeah, that's where those icons showed up. And I just used Matt's, well, I just put a block in there.
Yeah, it looks like you didn't cover enough in the right eye.
Yeah, I can see it now.
And yeah, there is definitely a blue tint to this photo. Of course, I'm sure that's the natural color of the building, but
I think I tried to color balance it, and it looked off when I added like orange or tried to add something, to warm it up. I mean, the sky and the grass look pretty, or the bushes look pretty natural to me.
Yeah.
No, to me, it's way too blue.
Except the whites look white. Actually, if I look at the whites on the hotel, to me, there's a slight warmth to them. So unless I were to isolate it, if I would take some of the blue out, I would end up making the white of the hotel, at least the side that's catching the sunlight. And yeah, the Google Earth stuff does have a direction of light. I mean, they have shadows, and because I think they're photographs taken of the actual things. I don't know how they do it on such a massive scale, but
If you rotate around a Google Earth location, you'll see that north, south, and east, west, you get different shadows because the captures are made at different times of day.
yeah.
yeah, the structure on top of this building, I would imagine, I mean, some sort of 3D scanning or modeling, or something went into that complex shape. I'm speculating here, but it seems to me like whatever this tech is could extrapolate a rectangular building, but these architectural details come across really well.
Yeah, this one feels modeled.
Yeah, I mean, they do accept, people can add to their database.
Yeah. Yeah, Melinda had quite a bit to say about that earlier. Yeah, this is very lovely. I would, I don't know what the command is in Affinity, but in Photoshop, I might consider hitting this with like a warming filter, just to cut some of that blue tint.
Yeah, I don't think they
Maybe an
have the
idea.
same kind of filters, but you can add color. It does have some color balancing tools, so you can definitely warm it up. It doesn't. Yeah, there's not as much variety of the filters, especially the ones that are based on photographic filters.
Yeah.
Infinity is not. It's not going to compete with the full featured Photoshop, but I think it competes with any of the ones that are not subscription based. I think it competes very nicely with.
Well, thank you, Steve.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Now I'm in a minority. I have not been to Niagara Falls. Coming up next is one by Oleg, Reflection Canyon, Utah by Google Earth.
Yeah, this was, I was hoping to take photographs of the reflections in the water, but Google Earth just turned all of the water black. So I changed it to blue, but it's doesn't look natural. That in the lower left-hand side, there was something strange going on. I thought the browns there were part of the scenery, the rocks, but no, actually the browns were water that continued into the picture.
I'm seeing a fair amount of a retinal rival in a few places in the water and also in the side of the rock that's closest to the camera. I don't know if other people are seeing it.
There's an islet in the upper left corner that's missing from the right eye.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a like a little dimple in the light orange part of the rock outcropping that's really close, the one that's sort of striped brown and orange. And the dimple is differently shaped from the left and right eye. And it's giving me some rivaling. I mean, they could be natural, just from catching stuff at a different angle, but usually better to just paint that out.
Well, there's nothing natural about this picture.
Yeah,
I
I
like
think
it.
in order for Google Earth to display reflections in the water, they would have to, it would be additional modeling for the reverse of the model to appear in 3 dimensions. I think we're still ways out from getting that on the fly.
It wouldn't necessarily be additional modeling. I mean, that's one way to do it. But, you know, since for several decades, they've had ray tracing, which can simulate reflection without having to build a model.
But Google Earth isn't ray tracing; it's all photogrammetry and modeling.
Yeah, but it could. They have smart enough people that they could, because you don't need ray tracing anymore to get shadows. There's lots of tricks you can do to simulate shadows. I mean, reflections. Reflections. I think at Pixar they don't use ray tracing anymore.
At any rate, I think it would be a special case for Google to bother with reflective surfaces.
They've probably got bigger problems to solve.
Well, and really, reflections might confuse the imagery for some people. Might be a little too realistic. Oleg, did you use a gradient when you filled in the water?
Yeah.
It looks a little more natural.
No, nothing. Like I say, there's nothing natural
Right.
about
I
this.
mean, I guess it's all relative how natural it looks.
I couldn't do anything much with the colors.
Well, you could say that the water is reflecting the sky, which is also featureless. So
I was going to give the title of this, calling it a fantasy rather than a photograph.
yeah, you'd have to do some sort of mirroring or something if you wanted to add reflections. That would be a project.
That's definitely doable within Photoshop.
Yeah.
It would be that was my original intent, but that would take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Stereo composition is good with interesting foreground objects and leading the eye back and back.
Well, like, how did you determine your separation? Did you test this on your TV, or did you do this on your 3D TV?
Well, I usually try to offset about uh, a 30th of the width of the screen, and you can see that by going back and forth.
Mm-hmm. And you can judge your separation. You know what's too hyper and what's going to be comfortable.
Yeah, you can see. Yeah, like I say, you switch between it's you can do whatever you want actually.
Yeah.
Well, look, you were the one that taught me about using the grid mode. Matt, if you do Control G in Stereo Photo Maker, it'll bring up a grid, and Oleg suggested making the spaces in the grid 1/15th of the way across, and then you can see the halfway points to get 1/30th when you want.
There it is. I accidentally jumped ahead with a photo there, but it's back now. I've turned the grid on. I'm turning the grid on. In the streams, it'll catch up.
It's also a good way to see the when the stereo window is too far back. With the grid on, the position of the stereo window becomes really obvious.
My grid is pretty open. It's just 4/3, but you can set this grid to be any number of horizontal or vertical lines.
Yeah, I think Oleg said 15 and 15. Is that correct, Oleg?
Yeah, that's what I use.
Yeah, I've been using that for a long time. It really helps.
Oh, that's a great tip. Let me set that up real quick. Let's see. Sorry, guys, I'm sort of jumping all over here.
Yeah, I'm looking for it.
Messing with the grid. I just want to see what this looks like, 15 by 15. Yeah, I can see how that would be a very useful tool for stereo adjustments.
So yeah, you can just pick out a feature, just like find a prominent feature the furthest back in the image, and sort of count the number of lines over from the edge of the image to that feature, and then see what it is on the other eye. And yeah, with 15 by 15, you don't want them any further apart than one grid line.
Yeah, that is a really handy rule of thumb. That takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, especially when you're working on a smaller screen and you're going to display it on a larger screen. It's sort of hard to gauge how much is too much, but with a rule like that, it sort of keeps you in the safe zone. Great tip.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Oleg.
All right, I'm going to turn this grid off. Thank you, Oleg.
Thank you.
Let's move on to one by Jack. The title is Refinery.
We're jumping back closer to home again.
Yeah, this is, I think I can see my house.
Yeah. This is the Chevron refinery in Richmond. And I sort of, the The blue sky I kind of put in by myself, but everything else, and I did some correction in the. There were a lot of interfering things out in the bay there that I took out some stuff so it wasn't so confusing. But the refinery stuff is pretty much that way.
Looks fantastic. I tried to climb over that ridge to get a view down into the refinery a couple of years ago, and I couldn't get near it.
Yeah.
I'd seen it from Google Earth, but I really wanted to get to that ridge in the back.
Isn't there a gun club or something like that in the area?
I don't recall
Like
anything
give
like
you
that.
access?
There are lots of scary signs and stuff.
Have you taken the tour?
No, I didn't know you could even get in there. I thought they were just trying to hide the whole thing as best they could.
Yeah, once a year they have a community tour, and you get on a bus and they take you around.
Oh, we should do a field trip. That'd be great.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
looked into that. I think
Yeah,
For 32 years, why I had pretty continuous access to it if I wanted it.
Wow.
I worked at research, which was just adjacent to it. Did quite a bit of work with the people in the refinery, so I was going out through there all the time.
and Jack was
That's really lucky. It was a great subject.
Do you guys have something in San Francisco like we have in Toronto, which is called open doors, where public buildings, all kinds of factories and so on are open in the late May for 2 days, and the public can just go to them and go inside? I wondered if you guys had something like that in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, because they're always fun, and you get lots of photo opportunities in those places.
I've looked into the Chevron tour, and yeah, the thing is, I think they just have it once a year. So definitely put it on your calendar.
Yeah.
I haven't looked for a while.
I'll put the link in chat. It's in October.
It's in October. Thank you, Jay. And Jay also posted a link of is this a rocket belt, Jay? In the chat? Your YouTube link? It must be. Yeah, well, thank you, Jack. I have been trying to photograph this for years. In my experience, it's fenced off, blocked off. You really can't get anywhere near it.
Well, there's a lot of, they can't let people wander around, of course.
Yeah.
And I guess I can remember, I think I took that tour one time just to see what it was, but that was a long time ago. I guess you guys say they're still doing it. I wasn't even aware.
Yeah, October. There's a
October,
link in the chat that Jay just put in.
It says registration is closed.
Well, that's for 2023.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Of course, it's stretched out all over. This is just one section of it. There's another section of it that doesn't even show in here. And
the original refinery here is over 100 years old, or it was established here over 100 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah. Sounds right.
It's a closely tied to Richmond history. This is in Point Richmond, of course, and that's the Richmond
San Rafael.
Richmond San Rafael Bridge back there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you, Jack.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's move on to one by Jay. and the title is Barcelona.
Yep, just a strange building I found. I think I had looked at Atlas Obscure to find, places to look at. And this seemed to be the most interesting angle.
I think that's one of the Gaudi buildings, I believe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, I had not known about the building, just was looking for interesting ones.
Can't really be sure if that's the architectural style or if Google Earth has somehow warped or distorted it.
No, this was Gaudi for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is probably an accurate representation of one of Gaudi's. I mean, his get even more distorted than this.
I don't think the guy owned a ruler as an architect.
Well, he did, but it was defective.
Okay, what's the timeline on Sagrada Familia? Are they actually trying to finishing it now?
Does anybody know?
I remember hearing this soon. Let's see, we were there. It's been a couple of years and it was under construction. So it's been a long time under construction. Many, many years.
Pretty, I mean, about standard for cathedral construction. If you go back medieval, I mean, 100 years isn't out of the ordinary for a cathedral.
Yeah, but I think they've almost finished repairing Notre Dame.
That's what I was wondering, because I know it was not being worked on for many, many years, and then I know they started up again. I don't know what their time is currently.
Google Earth does a pretty interesting rendering of the trees and the foliage along that tree-lined boulevard. I mean, they're kind of blobby, but they do have enough texture.
Yeah,
at least
it's fun how they're picking up the texture of the sidewalk on their undersides.
Oh, so. You're right. I see that.
I've been seeing that get better and better. This picture looks a little overexposed to me. You could probably, drop it down, darken it a bit, or at least stake out some of the highlights.
The trees look pretty good, realistic compared to a lot of these Google Earth pictures. The trees don't seem to come out too well.
Well, there was a time when the trees just looked like cardboard cutouts, and they're looking much more naturalistic now.
If you zoom all the way in on this image, and most Google Earth images, that's the trees and all the foliage are one of the failings, because, and there's a reason for that, because especially if you're trying to get a lower view, closer to the equivalent of whatever, seeing it from another building or something like that, because the images are taken further up generally, and I don't know if Google uses drones yet with this or not, but they definitely use helicopters and planes, and so the trees always suffer the closer you look at them. So even this one, if you zoom, I just did. If you zoom all the way in on the file, in the files section that you posted, yeah, they kind of fall apart. They look very imitation.
Yeah, thanks, Rob, and welcome.
Thank you.
And
thanks for showing up, Rob.
Is that you, Peter?
Yeah, you're the man. I remember the buffalo thing. You had a heck of a lot of info to give out.
Thank you.
Mr. Google Earth.
I should explain what Peter's talking about.
Yeah.
I did a workshop presentation last year at the Buffalo CDCon or 3DCon, and it was how to save stereo views from Google Earth advanced techniques, because I've developed a whole lot of really advanced techniques for doing really photorealistic images from Google Earth. And if, in case you don't know where that came from, I've been using Google Earth for years, but in 2020, I'm the one who designed the logo for the 2020 3DCon. And you could look at the 3DCon website and go look at, scroll down and look at the 2020 logo if you forget what it was. But it was this huge mountain. It was Mount Rainier, because it was scheduled to be in Tacoma. And of course, the pandemic happened, so it became a virtual 3DCon. But it was originally meant to be in Tacoma, which is just across the way from Mount Rainier. So I went looking for a great stereo view of Mount Rainier and asked the hostess of the convention, Phyllis Maslin, if she knew anybody with a good view, and nothing worked out. So I thought, okay, if Google modeled, if they did a really good job of modeling Mount Rainier, then I'm in, and they did. I mean, it's fabulously modeled. So a lot of people asked me at the convention, "Where'd you get that image?" It was Google Earth.
Ah, that's good.
Sorry for the long story.
No, that's the perfect story for
Thank you.
Slideshow.
So that's what the reason I mention that is because sometimes when I'm working on a project, if I'm working on really in depth with some kind of technology, I'll do what I call knowledge notes for myself, just for myself. So while I was designing that logo, because it was a huge amount of work, I kept because I know so much about Photoshop, but Google Earth, some of the things I was doing, I hadn't done before. So I started documenting all the things that I learned, and every original technique that I came up with, I documented that as well. So it made doing the workshop last year pretty easy, because I already had all my notes. Sorry, I'm done.
So tonight is our Google Earth special. We do this pretty much every year, but that doesn't mean that we only accept stereo views made in Google Earth once a year. Rob, we'd love to see some of the Google Earth stuff you've done. We'd love to see if you have, a breakdown of the Google Earth imagery that you captured for the logo or whatever. Submit it any time for any one of our meetings. We'd love to see it. We'd love to hear you talk about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
And speaking of zooming in and seeing the true nature of these trees, I've done that on the streams and on my screen share. And you can see they turn into kind of blobs if you get too close. A lot less convincing than from farther away.
Yeah, there's always this kind of sweet distance that, at a certain point they look good, and then anything further back from that also looks good. But yeah, there's a certain point at which you get just a little too close, and it's the big reveal that there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Or something not photorealistic,
Well, they're modeled as polyhedra. They're opaque polyhedra, like some kind of weird balloon.
Yeah.
Rob, is there a recording on YouTube or anything of that workshop you might know of?
No, there is not. There isn't.
Well,
And yeah, so no, there isn't. I mean, I did a handout, but for everybody, but
well, you have to be careful when you talk about workshops here, and just ask Peter because I roped him into giving us a workshop on 3D
My first
conversions.
workshop ever.
We kept that guy up for 4 hours.
I see. Browbeat into
we're on
submission,
West
eh?
Coast time.
Well, I was 1 hour, and then the interesting stuff happened with Nima on there talking about Leopix for about 2.5 hours. But Rob, I remember you had that brilliant idea of the opacity thing to get rid of some of the Google logos and crap that they put on your screen. That was so brilliant, I thought, to reduce everything to 1%, I believe it was. Am I getting it right?
That's
What a great idea.
That's one of the settings, yeah, because there's a certain setting, there's a certain thing. I think it might be the Google logo that you cannot get rid of completely, but if you set it to 1%, because you can't set it to 0%, but if you set it to 1%, it's invisible. So, yeah.
Yeah. You got a lot of gems in your talk, even though you were truncated a little bit with some technical issues, I remember.
Well, the
Oh,
labels are always...
were you there?
I was there in Buffalo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's
Sorry.
you. I'm sorry. I thought it was Matt talking. That's
you're
talking to Peter.
I will zip it.
No, I just wasn't sure who was talking. Yeah, what he's talking about is that it was a bit fractured because nobody knew why the image on my laptop was not showing up properly on the screen, and it was because I did not need 3D projection, and nobody knew how to that the problem was that the projector was still in 3D mode, so that's ate up a huge amount of time until somebody in the audience actually said, the projector's in 3D mode, you need to switch it. And from there on, I was off and running. But yeah, so that's what Peter's talking about. I didn't get the full time.
Oh.
So there were a lot of techniques that I wasn't able to show.
Well, it's a problem you're only going to have at a 3D con. It's the other way around.
Truly.
You want to show 3D, but you're the only person with a 2D presentation that day, I'm sure.
Well, I did show 3D images, but I showed them as anaglyph because I didn't realize that the predictor, you never know which projector they're going to use, and the projector they were using actually was easily switchable. I didn't realize because you could actually just flip the polarizing filters out of the way and then flip a switch on the projector. And if I'd known that, I would have set it up for that. I feel like I'm talking way too much. Sorry, guys.
No. You're the right person for this slideshow, obviously. One question that we all have is, how to hide the labels, the tags, and you can see some of us have painted them out, some of us have cloned them out. So it's good to know that there are ways to eliminate those. We'll have to investigate that.
Can I translate that? I'm guessing what that means is I'm going to browbeat you into submission, Rob, until you agree to a workshop as well.
Exactly, Rob. We need your workshop all recorded, and you have those wonderful sky replacement techniques, which earlier, maybe before you just came on tonight, people were talking about skies they put in or they had, and you had marvelous sky suggestions.
Yeah,
I'm trying to lead you on to this.
I came up with a technique. Actually, I came up with it while I was working on the 2020 3DCon logo, which is, I thought there's got to be a better way than all the ways that people have used to try to select the sky and then replace it. And I'm not gonna go through it here. I kind of have to show it to you, but It's I do it in Photoshop completely, but it involves taking a couple unique views from Google Earth and then using those two views, and it automatically selects the sky perfectly. It's the damnedest thing.
Well, if you want to show us a few, I'm not going to sign you up for a full workshop next month, but if you want to drop by and share a few photos, stereo photos, if you want to share like a progression or something like that, we'd love to see it.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that
Thank you, Rob.
invitation.
And thank you, Jay, for stimulating this conversation with your Barcelona stereo photo, or stereo image, I should say. All right, let's move on. And our next image is by Oleg. Calgary, Canada by Google Earth is the title. And this will pop up on the stream in a few moments.
Yeah, I was hoping to get down lower because I love the way the buildings in Calgary look, especially at sunset. But what happened to me anyway is you could go down and down and down, and at one point it turns into street view. So I couldn't get, this is as far down as I could get with a camera view. In street view, you can't get 3D.
I wonder if Calgary has just less 3D data, or less, maybe it just has lower resolution data.
I'm not sure.
I think sometimes you can trick it, like go down, angle the camera differently, and then use the arrow keys to move it, and then angle it back. Sometimes I can get a lower vantage point that way. Because I think normally you can get a little closer to buildings than this with Google Earth. I think.
Oh, I couldn't work with this picture.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna have to, tomorrow I'll have to try this.
Well, one of the problems, you can select which time of day the illumination would work. But the problem with this one is that the shadows were for AM and the buildings were for PM.
Huh.
One thing I noticed is that though you're right, you can set the time of day, and it will, and Google Earth will actually put shadows there, but it'll change, the position of the sun. But the shadows that were there when Google actually did the imagery that we're seeing, that doesn't go away. So you can't actually, like, let's say they did their imagery at 2:30 p.m. If you want a view that's 8 p.m., it's not gonna, the shadows just aren't gonna line up.
Well, it's going to affect the geometrical elements, but it's not going to change the photographic elements. That's the thing.
I don't follow you. What do you mean?
Well, because most of Google Earth is photogrammetry, it's satellite photography. And so the picture is the picture is the picture. The shadows that were there are the shadows that are going to be there. And then for the model buildings and things, those are actual CG geometry. And you can apply a light source to them. But you can't apply a light source to texture that's already photographed.
You can. Yeah, I agree. You can apply shadows to it. What I'm saying is that they won't match up
Right.
with the imagery that's already there if the time of day that you choose doesn't align with those shadows, because even though it's 3D modeled, all the textures are from their photography, which is from
Yes.
satellites, planes, etc.
Yeah, I thought that was what I was saying. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Apparently we're saying the same things. My bad.
Well, and it is demonstrated here. Yeah, you can see the shadows kind of painted on.
I know that they do try to get imagery looking straight down whenever they can. So if you're not for things that are not too far from the equator, there's sort of there's always a chance that they can get exactly the right time when there's no shadows at all.
That would be an interesting challenge for our next Google Earth subject, trying to find subjects and times and compositions where the shadows match. Really limit our creative opportunities, but be an interesting technical challenge. All right, thank you, Oleg. Let's take a look at one by Jay next. And the title is Pit. Is this local, Jay? I mean, it's Google Earth, I know, but the feature that it represents.
Yeah, I think it's Utah. I was just did a search for huge pits, and this was like the one angle that had the buildings on the lower right, and yeah, I played around. There's some odd. Let me see. It's like on the lower left, they almost didn't align.
Works really well.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
The number of levels is tremendous. I've never seen a quarry so deep.
Yeah, I think it's like one of the biggest ones in the US.
Maybe in the world. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Melinda, didn't you photograph a quarry?
A couple times.
Times.
I did the Clayton Quarry a very long time ago. And I also got another one that's sort of in the hills above Stanford, which is surprisingly well hidden from the ground. Well, I guess most of these are. I don't remember if I submitted that though.
Great composition in this one. I love that you have that foreground,
Yeah, sets the scale.
edge. Yeah. Great depth in this one. And then having those mountains in the background really draw my eye to that pit.
Oh, weird coincidence, just TikTok came up. There's a hotel built into a quarry. Just really gorgeous.
Yeah. I guess you get interesting views.
Oh, Matt. Yeah, I forgot. Most recently, I did the Point San Pedro quarry. I recommend everybody go check that out. You can just walk right in.
And where is that again?
San Pedro Point, McNair's Beach. It's do you know where China Camp is?
That is familiar to me, yeah.
Yeah, just it's just out there and to the east.
Is that
There's a peninsula and a pretty deep quarry, and it's well below the water level.
right? I think I recall that photo that because there's a body of water behind
Yeah.
the quarry.
Yeah, it's the bay,
Okay.
and they're gonna close the quarry at some point. I mean, it's maybe another 10 years or something, but it's scheduled to turn into a yacht harbor. They're going to open a channel and let the water in and turn it into a little bay.
Oh. So get there before it's too late.
Yeah, do check it out. It's pretty impressive and pretty easy to get to.
Yeah, I remember being impressed by the photo. And looks like Jay. So Jay has in the chat posted a link to that hotel, the hotel in the quarry,
Yeah.
and looks like a maps link to. Is that the quarry we were just talking about, Jay?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic! Yeah.
I think you've just given us our next day trip.
I hope to see many stereo photos of that quarry in the coming months. All right, thank you, Jay.
Oh yeah, you can turn on in Google Earth the link that it just gave. You can go into the layers and get the satellite image, so you can see the quarry itself.
Okay. Oleg, this should be up on the stream now. It's Mount Oleg, Canada, by Google Maps.
A couple of months ago, a friend mentioned that there was a mountain that had my name. So even before we had this special, I was trying to see if I maybe could climb it. And there's a way around the back, actually a trail that gets almost to the peak. But I couldn't really, the snow, you don't see the detail. It's looks like it could be very beautiful once the snow melts. It would take me, it could be a day hike, but I'd probably need to, and I will need to do it as an overnighter.
Well, I think you should have photoshopped Oleg on Mount Oleg.
Well, it's there. I got it tagged.
That's great.
Yeah, I do hope that Google releases a version of Maps for auto stereo displays like the Loom Pad, because it just shows so much more detail about the geography. I'm looking at this in stereo. This is what Google Maps should be showing us by default, I think. Someday. All right, thank you, Oleg. Jay, I've got one by you, and Habitat 67 is the title.
Yeah, it was made for a World's Fair, and it's only a section of what should have been done. And I just love the look of the building. Last year Unreal came out with, they did a scan of it and then modeled what it should have been. So really interesting page with the history, and you could download the 3D model and walk around. It was basically I think prefabricated units that were then put together in a frame.
Yeah, it looks there have been a number of attempts at modular homes like that, but they've never worked.
Yeah, this seems to be successful. I mean, people still love it, and place seems to be in decent shape. There's a documentary I linked.
This is in Montreal.
Yeah.
And there was a Czech pavilion that had a 360 projector system where there was a car going down the road. You look out the front, you see where the road's coming toward you. Out the sides are going. And out the back, the road's receding behind you. Sort of an AI of 1967. And it worked really great.
Disney did that at Disneyland.
Ah.
Called Circle Vision 360.
Ah, very good. Was it before 1967, do you remember, or around that time?
It was, I think, late 50s, pretty close to the opening of Disneyland.
Oh, wonderful. Never saw
it. They have a version at Disney World. I think the China Pavilion has a 3D, and the French Pavilion, I think, has a 3D. They also have some 180 ones. They do it with multiple screens.
There's kind of a fractal quality to this architecture.
Yes.
Especially in 3D.
Yeah, I really encourage you guys to check out the link.
Yeah, so there's a link in chat. Yeah. This is the Unreal Engine rendering. So, Jay, you're saying you can actually walk through this?
Yeah, as a video game
model of it.
Yeah, and they modeled the entire thing how it should have been. This is just one section.
See, experience the original vision. Yeah, great subject. Yeah, I'm just curious real quick. I'm kind of impressed by those trees behind it also, and I'm going to zoom in. So I want to see how well they hold up. Well, not too bad.
Yeah. It's the up angle, I think, makes it look better than if it was a lower angle.
That interesting.
Because it's the satellite basically mapping, not having to distort to make the sides. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Good to know. All right, I don't want to spend all night on the trees, but it is a fascinating subject. All right, well, thank you, Jay. Peter, here's yours. And the title, we know where this is. The title is Toronto Skyline, Side by Side, Text, Google Earth. It's Toronto.
And I made a lenticular out of this too, so I got 8 pictures side by side on it. And I had to find a spot where each movement was less, it would be generally too much of a movement when I arrow keyed it. And then shift arrow key gives you half the distance for a movement sideways. And I was just asking Rob if he knew of another way to get even less movement, but apparently have to work on that, but I managed to make a successful lenticular, and we have that cyan tower, that spiky tower that's coming out of the window, which is a nice reference there. And then I put the word Toronto on, who nobody from Toronto needs.
Wait a minute. So Peter, you're saying those letters weren't already hanging there in the sky?
Yeah, I hired one of those planes to drag a sign across.
Don't ruin this for me, Peter.
Oh, way to go, Rob. You caught me.
So that's interesting. I didn't realize that holding the shift key down when you're nudging left or right will reduce the distance that it travels. It's a little more fine-tuned, it sounds like.
I think Rob would confirm that. It's a way to make it half the distance of just the arrow key alone.
Well,
It's actually, I don't know if it's half per se, but it's way less distance, and sometimes that distinction is moot, because if it depends how far away you are from the view that you're trying to capture. Because let's face it, what we're doing in Google Earth is we're taking hyper stereo views. So sometimes you don't need those smaller increments, but I prefer to use the smaller increments because it gives me more control over how much that virtual camera is going to move.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Another great tip. Thanks.
For the lenticular, I just went to the right back and forth to make sure the 8 views I could get were the right parallax for a lenticular. So if I had more control, I could zoom right in and do just the tower alone with tiny increments. But anyway, it works very well. I love that. What is it called? Google Earth Pro, I think I was using.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called now. That's what the download desktop version is. They just call it Pro for, I guess, to distinguish it or something.
And
no reason.
No reason.
You can see a bit of a clone mark in the water by placing the Google text stuff down in the water. I just cloned it out. So there's a bit of a blobby look slightly on the bottom left corner.
So Peter, for the lenticular that you made from this image, did you capture 8 screens, or did you capture 2 and then interpolate the remaining 6?
No, I got 8. I got 8 pure images, which is way better than doing some kind of grayscale map thing of it. So,
Definitely.
So it really worked well. All the buildings are in the right spot and they aren't bent or twisted or anything. So yeah, it works well to do that.
By the way, a little correction here. Peter said, hold down the shift key to remove in smaller increments. It's actually not the shift key. If you're on a Mac, hold down the option key. If you're in Windows, hold down the alt key.
Thank you. I forgot which key it was. No wonder I didn't do it right.
But it's
thanks, Rob.
Yeah, you bet. But it's really noticeable, because when you hit the arrow, as quickly as you can to try to move the camera, it's very visible. If you hold down the option or alt key, it's quite noticeable that it moves much more in a much smaller increment, much smaller distance.
Yeah, good to know.
Good to know.
Well, Peter, I'd love to see some of your lenticulars. Do you sell them? Do you have them available somewhere? Do you display them, or do you make them for yourself?
I made 100 of them because that's the least I could get printed, and I've given out about 25 to my friends. And I'll try and throw one in my suitcase to take to Wichita.
Yeah. Well, I hope I can make it.
It's and it's quite large. I made 11 by 14 size, so it's kind of a nice size, and just not San Francisco. We could do one of San Francisco.
Well, we could do San Francisco, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I can travel the world on Google Earth.
right.
So.
But, you know, actually, yeah, I mean, that's a really interesting technique, lenticulars of Google Earth. You really do have a lot of options for subjects.
No kidding. Everywhere,
You could
pretty well.
You could stock gift shops worldwide.
Wow. Can you be my agent on those, man?
No, I cannot. Sorry.
Oh, darn.
This
You
is
can't
too
do
much fun for
everywhere.
me.
You can't do Dubai. I was trying to look at Burj Khalifa, and everything's flat.
Huh.
He's absolutely right. I looked at Dubai as well. And here's another place, which is surprising, but I actually predicted it. I was working on a project that hopefully I'll get back to it. The pandemic kind of halted it, but I needed 3D imagery of Washington, D.C. And before I even looked, I suspected that that would not be possible because of 9/11. Ever since 9/11, Washington, D.C., at least the central area of it with White House, Lincoln Memorial, Washington Monument, etc., is a no-fly zone. So Google Earth has no imagery from that. So if you go to Washington, D.C., it's flat.
Huh.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, too bad.
That'd be great.
3D.
The Washington Monument sticking out there and all the big, nice stuff to shoot there.
Oh, it'd be wonderful, but yeah, cannot be done.
Wow.
Actually, sometimes movie productions do get permission. I actually read about this, and some movie productions can get permission to shoot in Washington, D.C., meaning aerial photography, etc., video. but it takes something like 6 weeks to get through all the paperwork, and if you get the permission, etc. So most movie productions don't attempt it. But it occurred to me that if movie productions can do it, then Google could get permission as well. But for some reason, they've never pursued it.
Well, I'm sure there's a
Maybe they're
story.
restrictive about what direction they can be looking and stuff, and you couldn't really control that in Google Earth.
Or you could just get a kid to fly a kite.
Benjamin Franklin.
They'd probably
Yeah.
classify that as a drone now.
Yeah, true, because you can't fly drones there.
Maybe if you wore, dressed as Ben Franklin while flying the kite, they let you go.
Happy birthday
Right.
balloons
That's right.
Hey,
and a cell phone.
there we go.
You're an historical reenactor. That's not a camera tied to the kite. That's a key.
Honestly, Your Honor, I had no idea it was going to fly that high.
Your Honor.
They'll probably scramble the jets.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.
Steve, we've got Two by You coming up. This is Rushmore.
What can you say? It's just that there's not much else in this neighborhood, but there is that. Never been there. I don't think I'll go. I don't think there's much else to do, and just look at this, unless you're in a Hitchcock movie.
You could tell us why Lincoln has a bloody nose.
Well,
Yeah, there is that unusual discoloration.
Actually, I could Steve, you're the one who took this. I could fill in some blanks here. Steve, you no doubt noticed this in Google Earth because I've done some imagery from of Mount Rushmore from Google Earth, and Google Earth surprisingly is not well modeled, and everything we see in Google Earth completely hinges on how well the area was modeled by Google. And to this day, Mount Rushmore still isn't well modeled. So there are certain angles that it looks pretty darn good. Any of the other angles, the faces become distorted and things start looking really weird, including, a pointed nose on Abraham Lincoln, etc. So yeah, if you go to Mount Rushmore in Google Earth, you'll see what I mean. Just move around. And most views are not so good, unfortunately. So you got a pretty good one here, Steve.
Oh, well, thanks.
Hasn't anyone done a photogrammetry of that yet?
I don't know what.
What was that question again?
Hasn't anyone done photogrammetry of Mount Rushmore yet?
I'm sure
No.
someone.
Well, it'd be a big area, but
I mean, that's what this is. This is photogrammetry, but it's from overhead, and it's of a monument that's specifically designed to be viewed from below.
right.
Yeah, it seems like Google would need a truck to scan it from the visitor center to really get it right.
Well, actually, if they flew their planes around it enough and got enough different views, it would improve a lot. But must not have done a lot of passes.
There's a game for Oculus called Puzzling Places that does. It's a jigsaw puzzle of photogrammetry done on all sorts of World Heritage landmarks and buildings and temples, and it's some wonderful stuff. And almost all of it's done by drone photogrammetry. And I think Mount Rushmore would be a great subject for that. I don't know why they haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
Maybe you can fly drones over Mount Rushmore. I don't know.
Yep. The guy who does that is here in like San Francisco or Berkeley. He's local. Yep. Really nice app.
Steve, I did a bit of horizontal adjustment to this. This one was also in front of the window. Not.
Yeah, I noticed you were doing that, and I think this looks better.
I actually kind of liked the way it looked on my Loom pad. It was sort of a relief. But I wanted to see it this way too. Well, thank you, Steve. And don't go anywhere, because this is Paris.
Yep. Because I actually did the Arc de Triomphe twice, once looking right through it, down, I guess it's the Champs-Élysées. But this was a more interesting angle.
Steve, that is a magnificent view. That's really good.
Thanks.
I don't want to see the whole tower in the background. It's slightly blocked.
Yeah. Well, it should be easy to adjust that. Just shift the camera a little bit. I sort of liked this angle because you could see into the arches a little bit. Let's see, if you move, probably could still do it that way. But, I mean, you can see most of the Eiffel Tower in both eyes. And probably was on purpose. I tend to like to have, when I'm, to accentuate the depth, I like to have one thing kind of almost blocking something else, because you can really tell that it's one thing's in front of the other. So that
You have that on the other side. There's a tall building in the back, and it's visually close to the arch, so you can see pretty well the difference in depth.
Yeah, I mean, it might look better if you saw the whole Eiffel Tower.
I like it this way too. I just looked at it zoomed into 100% from the files, and this has fabulous detail. Looks great.
Don't take much credit for it.
Yeah, I know, but you chose well as far as the distance and the composition, etc.
Thank you.
How did they get rid of all the traffic?
I've often wondered that because so many Google Earth views are devoid of the traffic, which is wonderful, but strange. Yeah, I don't know.
It might be that they're taking like composite pictures, and so anything that's fixed is fine, but anything that's moving is going to just disappear.
Yeah, and they're definitely taking multiple views. Like I did one of my demo images in my Google Earth in Stereo workshop last year was the Colosseum in Rome, and there were absolutely vehicles parked there around the Colosseum that were rendered fine. So I guess if they're parked there long enough, then they'll be in the view,
Yeah, well, there's a bus parked there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's probably most of the time there's traffic going around the circle. So
I actually drove around that circle there with the car driving it.
Oh, I'm
What a
impressed.
nightmare that was. Yeah,
I'm
there's
impressed.
scooters, bicycles, you name it, no lie, everyone weaving in and out. It was a nightmare.
Oh my God, I'd be terrified. I mean, Logan Circle in Philadelphia. I drove through that twice, and I don't live in Philly, but I drove through that twice, and I remember telling friends there are two kinds of drivers in Logan Circle: the quick and the dead. And oh my God, I can only imagine driving around this thing. No, thank you.
Well, if they live through Logan Circle, they go off to the Arc de Triomphe to practice.
Apparently.
It's too bad we can't
So-
see through the Empire State. I mean, the Eiffel Tower is just sort of a mass. I can sort of see detail of the structure, but we can't see the sky behind it, of course.
It's only a temporary tower anyway. They're supposed to tear it down apparently after the 1889 was over.
Like the temporary Golden Gate Bridge tunnel.
All right.
Well,
So,
fine art was temporary, and then was completely rebuilt at great expense.
Well, wasn't the Palace of Fine Arts, which we saw at the beginning of
That's
this?
just what I said.
Yeah, that's what you said. Yeah.
So Peter inspired me to try something, and I found something I think can really help us. Has anybody tried the Google Earth Studio?
Google Earth Studio. It doesn't ring a
Okay.
bell.
No.
Yeah, let me share screen.
Sure.
Yeah,
we'll go
it's
to, host.
pretty swell.
Does that let you create content?
Yeah, I'll show you in a sec if I could share screen.
Yeah, here you go, Jay. Now you're a co-host.
Okay.
Let me stop sharing mine. That'll help.
Yeah. Okay. This is Google Earth Studio, so you can set up, your view, however. And let me just move. So, okay. And you can set up keyframes. And it'll render out each keyframe. This is only set to like 20 frames. So you could get your fine movements.
Wow.
And you could render it out, as an image sequence. And I have the resolution set to 4000 by 3000.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I should have used this to make the stereo pairs.
Yeah, this seems like a tool that was invented just for us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
you
Finally.
have fine control over,
Oh,
the
fine.
numbers
How fine can you make a movement with that?
extremely.
Just stretch out that timeline thing, or do you put in a smaller number or something?
You can set the timeline however you want. So I just did 20 frames, just as an example. So you can have a fine movement between 0 and 20, and it'll interpolate. So you'd have, really fine movements.
Could you just show quickly a very tiny movement for how small it can go?
Yeah, let me see if I can just delete out. Okay, so no movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll set you here, and I'll just do a bit, set the keyframe, and that should,
Oh yeah.
you're barely,
Barely moving. Wow.
Imperceptible almost.
yes, you see how tiny it is?
Oh, that's fabulous, Jay.
Yeah.
I should point out a couple things here, though. Google Studio, and you may have ascertained this from what Jay just showed us, but Google Studio is actually set up for video, and you can do astonishing video footage from it. And as Jay said, you can render it out. You could get stills from it. But here's point number 2. Unlike Google Earth Pro, in Google Studio, all my techniques for getting rid of all the labels, turning off all the right things, you cannot do that in Google Studio. Google insists that their logo is on any video made in Google Studio.
So we just render a bit bigger and crop?
Yes, you could do something like that.
Yeah.
Wow. I never heard of it. I guess there's a tutorial somewhere about how to use it somewhere.
Well, this makes me really anxious for our 2025 Google Earth slideshow. I had no idea we had this tool at our disposal. I've put the link to this in the chat. Hopefully I won't forget it, because this is something I really want to play with.
Yeah, it looks like a game changer.
Can you do street scenes as well with this tiny movement stuff? Like down on the street, the way Google has those pictures?
Well, yeah, but those pictures aren't 3D. They're just 360 pictures.
So
which you can actually download those.
But and they pan as opposed to going sideways.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's not 3D. It's just flat. Yeah.
Darn.
Well, it's always something. Well, that was the last image of our slideshow, but we're not done yet. what we would like to do now is, for those who have access to a computer or a phone or a tablet, or even who have installed the Poll Anywhere app in Zoom, and I'll be sharing information about that later, let's go through the images, and everyone who can participate, I'd like you to select your top 3 from the group. Again, this isn't a competition. We're not talking about winners or losers, but hey, we're all curious to know what the favorites were. There are a couple ways to get to the poll. The link to the website is in the chat. It's also written on this slide that you're seeing, and there's a QR code which you can use if you have a smartphone or a tablet with a camera. I will go through the images again. We'll just spend 2 or 3 seconds on each slide, and I will announce the names and titles. And you can make your selections now or after the little review, or maybe you've already done that. So
Where's the poll? All I see is some kind of presentation.
oh, I need to
And I
start
have
that.
waiting for Matt Bergman's presentation to begin.
Yeah, let me do that real quick. Thanks, guys. This is let's see. This is exactly what we had to figure out last week. Okay. Here we go. And this should start up any minute now. Let's see. Oh, how do we do this? All right, bear with me for just a second.
In the meantime, did anybody manage to get any photographs of the aurora?
Not I. Couldn't get anywhere dark enough.
I found some good candidate spots, but I wasn't quick enough to get out there. I went on Sunday, and it was pretty much too late.
I'm
I
impressed
saw
with
some time exposures on the Chronicle website. Looked pretty
Yeah,
neat.
I was going to do that myself.
All right, the poll is now active. Thank you for your patience. Take a look and make sure that it's up for you. One thing that kind of confused everyone about this poll last week is that there's no submit button. You just make your top 3 selections, and that's it. Then you can close the window or exit the app or wherever you're using it. If you make a selection and change your mind, you can click there's sort of a delete icon to the right of the selection, and that will let you make a different selection. And you can select up to 3. So let me go through the slideshow and just refresh our memory. And I'll read the titles. And let me get this off the screen. Here we go. Oh, actually, you know what? I need to go backwards before I can go forwards. So you might want to look away so you don't get too dizzy if this is going too fast. And now we're caught up. I'm going to wait about 10 seconds for the streams to catch up to all that navigation I just did, and then we'll start. And we are past 9 o'clock. I appreciate everyone sticking around. Okay. And here we go. This is Palace of Fine Arts by Steve. Table by Jay. GG Bridge 1 Google Earth by Bob Bloomberg. Tammins Switzerland by Google Earth by Oleg. Offshore SF Bay by Jack. Niagara Falls by Steve. Reflection Canyon, Utah by Google Earth by Oleg. Refinery by Jack. Barcelona by Jay. Calgary, Canada by Google Earth by Oleg. Pitt by Jay. Mount Oleg, Canada by Google Maps by Oleg. Habitat 67 by Jay. Toronto Skyline by Peter. Rushmore by Steve. And Paris by Steve. And those are our slides. Let's take the next 1.5 to 2 minutes to make our selections, and then I will we'll take a look at the results.
By the way, anyone who's interested in solar flares and looking at aurora borealis, look up the Carrington event of September 1859. Jay's nodding. He knows about it.
Yeah, that would be kind of the end of the world for us if it happened here. It happened again.
Very interesting.
It's amazing how little it would take to protect the grid, and it just has not been mandated.
They'll wait till it happens, and then they'll all wring their hands if we should have done something.
Oh, won't be able to without a grid.
Yeah. Good, no internet anymore. All this AI goes out the window, and I go back to playing Lego or something.
I go back to hitting each other with sticks.
Yeah. Or playing cards, because that's what I do right now. Play a lot of cards.
All right, does anyone need more time to make their selection? Okay.
And we just make the selection and don't push any buttons, right? You go look at them.
Don't push any buttons.
Good.
It's a weird thing. I think it's a flaw in the design of this polling software. Regardless, it actually does have some advantages. It's got a lot of disadvantages too. But I really want this to work. I'm just putting together the results right now. And I'll have these for you in just a minute. we go. And we'll get I'll get better at this. Okay, let me share my screen here. Or rather, share a different screen. And nice as the, oh. Uh-oh, I think I might have lost you guys. There we go.
I can see it.
Okay. I just had a mini crash here, but that's okay. Let me make that a little bigger. So I will get better at these visualizations, but it looks like Bob Bloomberg's Golden Gate Bridge was our most popular tonight with 6 votes. Jack's Refinery and Steve's Palace of Fine Arts tied at, we can say, second place with 4 votes each, and followed by Jay's Pit and a tie between Paris and Toronto there. All right, so well done, everyone. Thank you. And thank you for all of the fantastic tips and suggestions.
Quick thing.
Yeah, take it away.
There's a Himalayan fair this weekend in Berkeley. Interested dancers, vendors. So I'm going to go there, and if you want to go at the same time, let's arrange over the, groups forum. Do low 3 shooters. Oh, go there as a little shoot. Saturday and Sunday. I'm not sure which day I'm going.
Probably be busy, but who knows?
Well, that's a great tip, Jay. It sounds like a fine event for stereo photography also.
Yeah, I'm interested. Let's keep in touch.
Matt, can you post Robert Bloomberg's Golden Gate Bridge for just a moment? I'd like to try and screen capture it.
I can do that. Hang on one second here. Let's see.
I believe that you can download all the pictures. I was able to do that. I think if you go to the email that Matt sent, it's got a link for a zip file of all of them.
Yes, it's also in Matt's posting on Photo 3D.
Yeah, let me
about the meeting.
Okay, thanks anyway, but I just wanted to grab it now and
I will do that, Steve. And I also put the download link in the chat again, just in case you want to grab it that way too. I'm just loading it up right now. And let me share this. Where am I? There we are. There we go.
Thank Thank you.
Oh, it's kind of blowing up. Let's see. I see what's happening. Okay. Can you see that? Can you capture that?
Yep, got it.
Excellent. All right. That concludes our meeting for tonight. Our next meeting is next month. Gosh, it's already going to be June. That will be Tuesday, June 4th. It's our regular open division. I'll be sending out an update about that. And this this new poll we're using, bear with me. I really, really want this to work. It's a little rough around the edges, but give me some time. Let me give it some polish, and I think we'll all be very happy with it. That said, thank you for joining. Does anyone have anything they'd like to close out with before we disconnect for the night?
I'd just like to reiterate that it's been some great images this month.
You know, I was thinking it would be interesting, since we've been doing these Google Earth specials for a couple years now, it might be interesting to compare some of our earlier work with some of our later work to see how we've developed and how Google Earth has developed. It would be pretty easy to do. I'm sure I have all of those archived.
Yeah, I kind of thought that we've sort of mined it out, but obviously there's a lot more that we can do now.
Yeah, well, that's technology for you.
Well, and just creativity of our members. So
yeah,
it's
also changing landscapes. You know, that the caps that got of Berkeley under construction last time around are going to look completely different now.
Google keeps adding to it too. I mean, there's cities that used to have no three-dimensional models that are entirely three-dimensional.
And this separate standalone studio application looks super useful.
Yeah, I think we learned some great tips tonight.
I'd like to ask Melinda if, regarding the solar event, if anyone thought about trying to capture a stereo of that, what the baseline would be to capture.
That's actually, yeah, that was kind of what made me start to talk about it, but I kind of lost that point in the middle. But yeah, I'd love to cooperate with other people. We can just be on our cell phones and tell people, okay, shoot now.
Right. Yeah.
There's been a discussion on one of the 3D groups, and it's like tens of miles distance, and still doesn't look too good.
They've tried it?
Huh.
Yeah, it's actually published in a few books, and the guy who had the book said it just didn't look that great.
So did they